Welcome to 31 Women. My name is Nina. I'm an artist and I live in Slovenia.
Nina, it's so nice to have you here with me today. I'm very excited to hear about your art, and you'll also be introducing some of your poetry to us. But just to begin, I believe when we first met, it was very briefly in London. And is it correct that at that time you were in London taking part in some sort of a scholarship?
Hello, Adrian. Yes, it is correct. We met in London and it was in 2020. And I was there because I had a scholarship and we met at the end of my 7 months long traineeship in UK.
Well, Nina, I think a good place to begin this interview is to ask you more details about that scholarship and exactly where were you doing your art in London?
I got a learning agreement for student mobility for traineeship. I got it from my university in Ljubljana, in Slovenia, from Academy of Fine Art and Design in Ljubljana, because I was at that time studying. I studied a master from abstract painting, and I based myself in Trinity Boy Wharf, actually in Trinity Studios, for where I was, or I should be, for 7 months. I should skill myself in, I would say, some works. So I should work in a gallery. And I also wanted to study art, contemporary British art. So I was planning to visit libraries, to read essays, books, monographies, visit galleries and museums. And as well, I was planning to paint in Trinity Studio, yes.
Well, Nina, that sounds really great that you were able to receive that scholarship. Congratulations on that. And also that your art was receiving that level of recognition. I'm just wondering if you could tell us, Nina, about the large painting that you have behind you on the wall at this moment. How was that piece created and what is it called, and your own interpretation as the artist? What is its meaning?
Yes, this big painting behind me was painted I would say, in transition between last and a new year. So in 2022 to 2023, I spent Christmas holidays in my studio alone and with people from my village where my studio is based. And it's a really huge painting. It's 3 meter and 4 meter is the size of it. The title of this one is Without Surrender, There is No Life, the Silent Charity of Dance. It's like you can see, I used acrylic paintings, and I also use oil painting and stick, and I also use acrylic spray. And I didn't use any brush, so I painted it with my body. It was like a performance I did in the studio. So I was here alone, I was reading, I was contemplating, I was listening to music, so I was really in my body with me. And it's like when I felt that I'm ripen as a fruit, that it's ready to be eaten, I slowly lay on a canvas on the floor and I start to move. Maybe I start to dance, and I just intuitively I pick the colors that I wanted to use. I picked also that acrylic spray at the end, but everything was just, it's like part of the process of total surrender to the unknown. And it's like I followed this process. I went to this deep, not knowing what actually will come out. And when the process was finished, I stepped back, and what is left is painting. And this painting reminds me of, I could see planet Earth on it, or at least, some part of planet Earth, like, if we would be looking at it from really, really, really above, from the universe. It's total abstract painting, and, you can see colors that I use, some shades of orange, yellow, or ochre, red, green, with a lot of blue, and it's just that intuitive dance of something my body was holding in it in that moment.
Well, Nina, that's really interesting to hear that the clothes you're wearing became part of the art process itself, part of the materials and the tools that you used in the creation of the artwork.
Yes, you can see the result. My last painting was like a little bit more orange and a little bit of, I would say, violet color. You can see on my knees, but yeah, I do paint, with these clothes, and I like to wear them. This is how I do it. This is my uniform.
That's really fantastic. It's like those clothes are also artworks in their own right. I wonder, do you wear those clothes outside of the studio, on the street and out and about as well?
No, I didn't. No, not yet. Maybe I will, because it's like then I'll be walking around the world with pieces of my paintings on me. It would be funny, but no, I didn't try it. Maybe sometime, one day I will.
So they really are your studio clothes, but I feel it would be a great idea if you started to wear them in the outside world as well. That could almost help to increase your brand, your identity as an artist. They are certainly part of your body of art, if you like, Nina. I also think it's wonderful that you've explained to us now a little bit of the story behind the process of how you created that large painting hanging behind you and how you called it Surrender. It seems to me very appropriate because from the story you've just told us, you went into a process of surrender during the painting of it.
Yes, it's like, I believe this is like, I'm doing this when I paint, so this is like my method, embodied action painting, go into the unknown, but this surrendering to the unknown, nowadays is really important, not just like, I would say, a method, how do I paint my paintings, but I do believe that we have to live like this in our everyday lives, because time, place, where do we live nowadays is quite uncertain. We had COVID, so it was a global pandemic a few years ago, something that we as a species, as a race, didn't experience before. So it was total unknown. And, instead of being stuck, we have to go with the flow. We have to jump into it. And in that way, my painting process is subversive, and it's telling people, how to go, how to surrender to whatever is coming.
Well, it really does seem to me, Nina, that you are entirely surrendering to the creative process of whatever your muse brings forth for you in the expression of your artworks. I'm very interested to hear where did the idea of using your body as a tool within the creation of your visual arts come from?
It's a very good question. It's when I applied to academy at the same time when I started my study at the Academy of Fine Art, I applied to be a 5 rhythms teacher. So I trained to be a 5 rhythms teacher, a teacher to teach people how to be embodied. Instead of dancing at home every day, I was dancing in art studio at the academy. And so it came really natural that it's like I was painting all the time on the floor, and I was listening to the music at that time, and I was just, actually practicing what I should practice as a trainee of 5 rhythms practice. I never thought, that it's like when I applied for academy that I will paint with my body, that my body will become a brush, embodied brush. But even before, let's say, I like to paint on the floor with brushes. I used to do it as a teenager on the floor of my living room or my teenager's room.
Thanks, Nina. I've really enjoyed hearing about the large artwork behind you and how it was created. But you do also create smaller artworks as well, don't you? So would you like to share some of those with us, please?
Yeah, I do smaller artworks as well, and at the same time when I did a cycle of 5 big paintings that size during my Christmas holiday from 2022 to 2023. I did 40 of that kind of a small paintings, as you can see on paper. Like they're also abstract, and I did it I would say a fast signature to put out the expression, the intuition, whatever was in my body, not thinking, just doing, surrendering to the brush, to the color. So some of these pieces are here. And as well, you can see maybe a little bit bigger paintings, but still small, are here. These are meter and meter 20, and I painted those one during this summer, during summer 2020, and they are framed, ready for customer, for new big beautiful apartment or wherever. They are ready to move.
Gosh, well, Nina, there's clearly a real correlation there between your 5 rhythms dance and experience as a teacher with your visual arts. But you also write poetry, don't you? So I'm wondering, does the poetry work with the dance and the visual arts in a similar way to form a sort of triangle of artistic works?
Yes, definitely. It's like everything is a dance, I would say. If I don't dance, I paint with my body. If I don't paint, I write poetry. And I like to combine all those 3 things because they all come from the same source, from the same creative energy. And we can call this, we can transform this creative energy into a dance or into a painting or into a poetry. And, usually I titled my small paintings or my artworks with poems, or I put poems into the gallery. So whenever I exhibited, whenever I had a solo exhibition, I had 2 in my life, I was always presenting my paintings with my poems together. we cannot separate it. Everything is a dance.
Well, Nina, I've done a little bit of five rhythms dancing as someone who's just turned up and bought a ticket and got into a hall as a participant, and I feel like five rhythms dancing takes you on a journey, and you need to surrender to that as well in order to really make the most of the experience of that form of dancing. I've certainly enjoyed hearing how you've surrendered to the process of creating visual arts and how that correlates to your experiences as a five rhythms dancer. And I'm sure I speak for everybody listening in that we'd really love to hear some samples of your poetry.
I would love to read two poems of my poems written in English. Last year I self-published a poetry book titled Words and Kisses. And it's a book that combines art, details of my painting and my poems. There is probably around 50 poems published in it, mostly love, erotic poems. And two are in English as well. So the first one, glory, glory to your hips, glory, glory to your lips. And the second one is a little bit longer. It's like that. If the clouds were just cream on the top of my soul, feet would never bring me to the river of sadness, and the master of dance would never be needed.
Well, I'm a fan of Kisses and Words. I've loved the short excerpts that you've shared with us today, Nina, and I'm sure that the artwork throughout that volume is going to be exquisite. So it's been a real treat. Thank you for sharing it with us, and I'll make sure our listeners know how to be in touch with you if they'd like to explore it more intimately and grab a copy from you. But now I'd like to move to a totally different theme, one which you had raised yourself. Each of the 31 women taking part in this project sent me in one or more questions at my invitation, which they felt could lead to an interesting area of conversation. And one question which you sent in, Nina, which was very unlike any of the questions sent in by any of the other women, was to ask about the changes, the generational changes that have been experienced by women in Slovenia, in particular the women in your family. So starting with your great-grandmother, then your grandmother, then your mother, then yourself. What has been the experience of each of you as women living in Slovenia? How has your circumstance and environment at the time influenced what it is to be a woman living here in this world?
Yes. 3 generations, so almost 1 century. What happened in this 1 century? What a change there was for being a woman nowadays. My grandmother, she was brought up without her mom, because when she was 7 years old, her mother was killed, and she was transformed from Slovenia to Serbia because of the Second World War. And so luckily she was alive, and she found her way back home. Because she was really intelligent, she went to the university at that time. She had long, beautiful hair, And at the university, she cut her hair really short. Well, I think it was a big feminist gesture. And then she escaped from the university. She returned back home. She married. She never finished, or she didn't study, later. She became mother of 3 children and a housewife. So she was always economical, depending on her husband, my grandfather. And she didn't have a freedom that nowadays, that maybe then my mother have or had. My mother, she, on other side, on other hand, she finished the university. She is a principal of a high school. I would say she is a very successful woman, a businesswoman that knows how to stand and fight in quite man world nowadays. We all know Freud said that the world, European culture is phallocentric, and so if my grandmother was a fighter, but at the end she still was just or only a mother and a housewife. My mom became a principal, a powerful woman, a respectful woman, but in this man-oriented world, it was quite hard. It's still quite hard, to live with all the aspects of feminine, nowadays, or in her time, in 80s, 70s, or in 90s, or in the millennium, women were powerful, but they had to power like men did, with a staccato force. And, this is not something we would like. I, as a third generation, I luckily can be an artist now. So I can do what I love. And I can follow my feminine side, although it's quite hard, even in the art world. But I do believe that, the greatest gift we women have is softness, is this receptive energy, love, fluidity, mysteriosity, and we can rule and rock the world with that energy. And I think it's really time to start act as a beautiful woman, not as a man in shirts. In skirts, I wanted to say in skirts, I'm sorry.
Well, please correct me if I've interpreted this incorrectly, Nina, but listening to what you've just said, it seems to me that hopefully the opportunity for the freedom of expression and the opportunity to choose lifestyles has improved across the generations within the women in your family. Would that be correct?
Yes, luckily in my family it was like that, but definitely, it's like nowadays we still have, generations or people, because, things are changing all the time. And I would say that not many of women have this privilege to step into their own path, to follow their own dreams, to be economical independent, to be, and that, to allow that they can allow themselves to be what they want to become, because we are still conditioned by the society, and it's not easy even to be an artist in my homeland. It's not easy to be, I would say, not married, single artist with 40, in my age. So it's and yeah, I do believe I'm lucky because, I'm lucky that I'm brave enough, that I have I would say a strong feminine background that supported me in a way that I can do what I want nowadays, that I can spread my awareness, my beliefs, that I can do something, let's say, like body, paint with my body, that I can talk about body awareness, body intuition, what is extremely important nowadays. And on the other hand, it's like we are still, conditioning by the mainstream, by the contemporary, I would say, stream of how can, who we should be nowadays, how should women look nowadays, how should they act, how should they, I don't know, what should they wear. And it's like when we will step out of this, we will find complete freedom and we will surrender to this, I would say, beautiful, raw, creative force of our being. And there, the true self is born, and the true women as well.
Another really great question you put forward in your list of potential things to talk about, Nina, was your interpretation of what is it to be a fully expressive and fully embodied woman in today's world.
Yeah, I must say that it's like Gabrielle Roth, creator of 5 rhythms, she said, get to know your staccato energy because you are both yin and yang, but just stay with your feminine. And, feminine is this receptive energy, loving, courageous, fluid, total, always, like a river, always going on, moving and changing. And, this is how powerful women should lead the world. This is how every woman should be, in the kitchen, in bed, in the library, on the garden, wherever, we have to stay who we actually are, what is our true nature.
Nina, I'm sure people have enjoyed listening in on you as part of 31 Women today and learning more about your artwork and your dance and your poetry. If they wanted to touch base with you and learn more about your work, what would be the best way for them to do so?
You can find me on my website, ninastopar.art, or as well on Saatchi Art Gallery. I have a few drawings there, or maybe on Slow Art Gallery. It's a Slovenian platform for artists. So, yeah, or, if you will write down into Google Nina Stopar Art, you probably will find my name in it as well. So welcome.
Nina, thank you so much for coming along and being part of 31 Women. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you, Adrian, for inviting me. I enjoyed being one of your 31 women for Women Month, Women International Month. And I hope we did a good job and we will spread some good awareness around the world. So please, if you do listen to this podcast, please do donate to Adrian. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.